Black history and old money are entwined in ways that redefine the very concept of wealth and privilege. Often, when we picture the old money lifestyle, sprawling estates, heirloom jewelry, vintage luxury cars, and an unmistakable old money aesthetic, we fail to consider the dark foundations upon which these generational fortunes were built. This is particularly true for old money families in the United States, whose legacies were often forged through the brutal institution of slavery. What makes this story even more surprising is the role played by white women in creating and sustaining these old money families. Far from being passive bystanders, many actively participated in the slave economy, using their positions to maintain power and wealth. These women were not merely beneficiaries of the old money allure, they were architects of it, blending social dominance with economic strategy in ways that still haunt history. Hidden wealth, how slavery built old money families. The old money allure we associate with refinement and exclusivity masks a grim reality. Before the Civil War, slavery was a cornerstone of the American economy. Enslaved black men, women, and children were treated not as humans, but as assets, property that could be bought, sold, and inherited. This human property formed the foundation of wealth for many old money families. For white women, owning slaves offered more than just labor, it was a gateway to power. Remarkably, approximately 40% of all slaveholders were women. They played an active role in acquiring and managing enslaved individuals, ensuring that their social standing and their family's wealth remained intact. This was especially critical in a patriarchal society where women's legal and financial rights were severely restricted. Parents often passed more slaves than land to their daughters, knowing that while land would eventually transfer to a husband, enslaved individuals could remain under a woman's control. This strategic inheritance allowed white women to exert influence, even within the confines of a system that sought to render them powerless. Power dynamics and the creation of old money luxury. The old money aesthetic, a lifestyle defined by understated elegance, exclusivity, and generational wealth, was born from this dynamic. White women were taught from an early age how to manage enslaved individuals, learning these practices from mothers, aunts, and grandmothers. This indoctrination created a culture of control, where the exploitation of black people became a skill, passed down like an heirloom. But the power dynamics did not end with labor. Historical records reveal shocking instances of sexual exploitation, particularly involving white women and black men. In some cases, plantation mistresses coerced enslaved black men into sexual relationships. These acts were not about love or desire, but about power, the ultimate assertion of dominance in a society built on racial hierarchies. The very concept of old money mansions, those sprawling estates with their grand facades and manicured gardens, carries the weight of this history. These homes were not just symbols of wealth, they were monuments to a system of oppression. Built by enslaved labor and managed by white women, these mansions embodied the intersection of privilege and exploitation, a legacy of silence. One of the most astonishing aspects of this history is how deliberately it has been obscured. The role of white women in slavery has often been minimized or ignored, partly because it challenges the traditional narrative of delicate, passive women confined to domestic roles. In reality, white women wielded immense power over the lives of the enslaved, engaging in practices that included physical violence, sexual exploitation, and the separation of families. This silence serves to protect the image of old money families as symbols of class and refinement. It allows the old money lifestyle to retain its allure, disconnected from the suffering that made it possible. Yet, historians and writers are beginning to uncover the truth, using documents like slave narratives, legal records, and personal correspondence to shine a light on these hidden stories. Shocking facts about the role of white women in slavery. Inherited wealth through slavery. Unlike land, which was often absorbed into their husbands' estates, enslaved individuals were frequently left to daughters in wills. This allowed women to maintain financial autonomy and social influence. Active slave owners. White women were not passive managers, they were deeply involved in the day-to-day lives of their enslaved laborers. Some even participated in the brutal punishment of those under their control. Sexual exploitation. Historical accounts detail how some white women forced black male slaves into non-consensual relationships, using their authority to satisfy personal desires or assert dominance. Slave wet nurses, wealthy white women often separated enslaved black women from their families to use them as wet nurses for their own children, treating them as both caregivers and commodities. Legal battles for slaves. Many white women went to court to fight for ownership of enslaved individuals, arguing that their social standing depended on their ability to control this property. The old money aesthetic, with its antique furniture, perfectly curated wardrobes, and timeless appeal, often draws admiration for its sophistication. Yet behind this aesthetic lies a legacy of exploitation. The generational wealth that funds these lifestyles was frequently amassed at the expense of human lives. Consider the old money mansions that remain tourist attractions today. While their beauty is undeniable, they stand as monuments to a time when wealth was built on the dehumanization of others. The grandeur of these estates was made possible by the unpaid labor of enslaved black people, whose stories are too often overlooked in favor of architectural admiration. Understanding the connection between black history and old money families is essential for rewriting the narrative of wealth and privilege. It's not enough to admire the old money lifestyle or envy the old money allure. We must interrogate the foundations of this wealth. Acknowledging this history does not diminish the allure of old money, but it does demand that we see it in its entirety. The old money aesthetic can no longer exist in isolation from the stories of exploitation and resilience that made it possible. By examining this history, we can begin to address the inequalities that continue to shape society today. The connection between old money and black history is not just a footnote, it's a central chapter in the story of generational wealth. The old money mansions that symbolize success and luxury are also reminders of the human cost of that success. The allure of old money luxury, with its symbols of elegance and exclusivity, must be balanced with the knowledge of the suffering that built it. As we admire the old money lifestyle, we have a responsibility to remember the stories of those who were exploited to sustain it. By uncovering these hidden histories, we can challenge the myths of old money families and work towards a more honest and inclusive understanding of wealth and power. Thank you for taking the time to explore this important and thought-provoking history with us. If you enjoyed this video and want to uncover more untold stories about old money families, hidden wealth, and generational power, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us create more engaging content that dives deep into fascinating topics. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts.